What's going on, my little tortilla chips? Welcome back to Nacho Wrestling. And in today's video, we are taking a look at the 5-star Booker game that's been going around for a little bit on Twitter and on the subreddits for wrestling and everything like that. But it's basically like the build your own NBA team and try to go 82-0 if you've seen those, but with wrestling. And the goal was to try and book the best card possible. And we're going to do it on the standard rules, because the goal for this is to try and get an S tier, because when I get S tier, then I get an unlock of custom, which allows me to basically do anything I want within the match card, so I can really book a 8-star card. I think it only goes up to 6 though, which I think that's the goal, is to get a 6-star S tier. Just for proof, flashing on the screen now is my first trial attempt, just so I didn't record this, but I needed to try and get my feet under me and see what exactly this thing was. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But before we jump into the Nacho Wrestling Show of the Year card, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to stay up to date on all things Nacho Wrestling. And if this is your first time watching a Nacho Wrestling video, consider hitting that subscribe button and sharing the video with your friends. That would be greatly appreciated. Whoa, wait. Just before we get started, last thing, someone had a little fuck up on OBS and kind of maybe wasn't getting picked up in his mic, and the music he was listening to in the background on his earbuds may or may not have been the only thing that got picked up. So what you're about to watch is me talk and think my mic is being picked up, but it's not. And what you're also about to hear is me explaining what I am rewatching. Basically, I have to watch this twice. I have to watch it to record this audio, and then I have to watch it and edit it. So yeah. Thanks for that, past Ryan, you fucking dunce. And this is it from me. Take it away, Ryan, that thinks he's talking into the mic. Okay, so we have the 5-star Booker template starting out. We have the stats. We have Smark, which you can kind of read. We have the salary cap version. We have the custom version, which the whole goal of this was to try and get custom and GM mode unlocked so that we could do more stuff if this does really well later on down the line. Hindsight being what it is, I probably should have checked all my OBS stuff. All right, that's enough of that. You can see the promotions I have to choose from. I have WWE, AEW, WWF, WCW, New Japan, TNA, so on and so forth, and then DPW. I turn off miscellaneous because I won that in my trial round that we talked about in the intro. I didn't want anything random coming at me, because I tried to keep the promotions that only I know about or know a lot about to feel confident in. So yeah, that's pretty much where we are with that. There's a stats board, so you can see who does the best on the specific board of the day. God, what the fuck am I talking about right now? I don't know. Oh yeah, I just named off all the promotions, and turn off miscellaneous here in a second. This is honestly the most annoying thing to do, is just try and listen to myself or watch myself without hearing myself, because I know I'm an idiot. All right, start the damn thing. We're waiting for the thing to start still. I haven't started it yet. Still talking. Don't know what I'm talking about. This is either going to be a really weird video. All right, cool. So here we are, and you are going to spin for your venue first. We're at the Office Depot Center in Sunrise, Florida. I've never heard of that place. I don't know if it's real or if it's been renamed. So, and then we get to format how the show goes. So as you see, I'm going to be doing a 3-way dance to start off the card, keeping a singles match as a second match, and then you'll see here shortly, I switch the third match to a 6-man tag right there, and then the semi-main stays as a singles, and the main event stays as a singles. This is honestly what I would book for a 5-match card if I was an actual promoter. I feel like this makes, a good bit of sense. You do a 3-way dance, something fun, fast-paced, get the crowd involved, like TNA Unbreakable 2005, even though that was a main event. And then you come back down to reality with a regular one-on-one, and then you have a big, good old 6-man tag clusterfuck for the third match, and then your women's main, and then your regular main. So TNA in 2025 was our first choice, And you see AJ Styles on there. I felt like that was cheating because AJ, I swear, all he did was show up. He didn't even wrestle in 2025 for TNA. So I immediately moved over to tag teams and I started looking at Fraxium, the Hardys, the Rascals were really the only other choice I had besides Fraxium. But Fraxium had such a high average score of 9.52 that I kind of had to go with them for that. It just made the most sense, if we're being completely honest. So I go with Fraxium here. I take another look at the men because I feel like going with AJ Styles. Spoiler alert, I went with AJ Styles from 2004 as Fraxium's teammate, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I go with Fraxium in the 6-man tag. That just feels right. They're a great team. It's a shame that WWE doesn't use them properly. Spin again, WWF 1987. I wasn't even a thought yet at this point, but I immediately went over to men, and I knew without a shadow of a doubt, even though I fucking hate his guts and I really don't like him that much as a person. I'm kidding. I have nothing wrong with him. Just not a huge fan of his wrestling. Bret Hart. It was either Bret Hart or Steamboat, but Bret literally was like winning awards on awards on awards in 1987, which is crazy because they haven't even reached his peak of powers yet. So Bret Hart, and you'll see here in a second, I put Bret Hart in my main event spot, which is pretty cool. I feel like Bret in the main event, makes sense. Maybe not 1987 Bret Hart because he was still a tag guy at that point, but nevertheless, TNA 2004. This is where I take AJ Styles to team up with Fraxium. In my headcanon, I didn't think I spent this long talking about this, but yeah, AJ Styles in 04. That's peak with Fraxium. That's fucking peak. I think I thought about putting him in the semi-main, but then no, I decided against it. He's with Fraxium. That is a high octane team. That actually should be their team name, High Octane. That sounds cool. So you can see the spin button. The site's a little laggy. That's like the only critique I have so far. Other than that, it was a really fun site to mess around with. ECW 1999. I had really one person I wanted at this point. You see Christopher Daniels on there. I'll have to go see what Daniels did, but I take a look at the women for a second. Thought about Jazz. Jazz would have been good, but not to peek too far ahead. I think the women's match I booked was better than anything Jazz would have done or could have done. Not saying Jazz isn't good, just I think I booked a better women's match. So I go back over to the men. I scroll down a little. I see Raven. I see RVD. And I see the motherfucking GOAT. I see Taz. Because I think Taz is one of the most underrated wrestlers just because of his size alone. And God, he's so good. WWE in 2004. Now, again, a lot of great options here. Could have gone Shawn Michaels. Could have gone Kurt Angle. But I went with someone I think just mixes well with Taz's style. Could have gone with The Undertaker, but Undertaker seems to be properly disliked on this website or on this little game. So did not want to touch Undertaker with a 10-foot pole, but I went with Eddie. Eddie versus Taz. I think that's a match that happened a couple times in like early ECW when he was the Tasmanian Devil, maybe. I'd have to look into that. But nevertheless, really good match. Really fun looking match. What else? What else do we got? I feel like I'm talking about random bullshit right now. What do you guys think? Oh, yeah. Me putting in the I don't know, guys. I'm really annoyed at myself for this. Hopefully this does well, and hopefully I'll do another one. Probably not. Spin the damn wheel. There we go. Impact in 2021. 2021. I probably could have picked someone really good that was like a huge player for Impact, but I went with Kenny because it felt like, even though I went with AJ Styles, or wouldn't go with AJ Styles in 2025 TNA, I went with Kenny in 2021 because Kenny versus Bret Hart, I mean, that's money match just because those guys are so big and well-known names. And here's me looking at all the stipulations I could go with for that match, but I think I settled on the proper one. Could have done a title versus mask, which if neither guy wears a mask, I'm curious to see, like, does that get rated poorly since there's no mask to lose? But I go with the best 2 out of 3 falls. I feel like that's pretty good. Pretty good stip for those two to go at it. Spin again, WWE in 2009. So this is where I start building out my women's match, because I understand that WWE may have not had the best women's roster in 2009, but they had some good ones. They had Beth Phoenix, Gail Kim, even Victoria, and I could have went with any of those. I almost thought about Gail Kim, but I was really hoping for like TNA era Gail Kim, which sucks. But I went with Mickie James instead. I saw Mickie down there peeking at me, and I was like, yeah, I gotta. So I went with Mickie James. And there's me yelling hardcore country. That was funny. Really wish that got picked up on the mic. PWG in 2007, and definitely not women because there's only 2 options, but I am going to go with the GOAT, Bryan Danielson. My thought process was I'm basically going to build out a technical wrestling 3-way dance, which you'll see shortly. But Bret Hart versus Bryan Danielson obviously would have been a killer submission match to main event the show, but it's okay. So I put Bryan in the 3-way dance. I realize here that I could have switched it back to a singles match, but I kept it a 3-way dance, which I think in the end is the right thing to do. Just makes the most sense if we're being honest. Try to get as much people on the card as possible is always my thought process, but do it in a way that doesn't feel cluttered and messy and like you're rehashing the same, 2 stipulations or 3 match types over and over and over again. So I'm trying to figure out where to put Bryan. If I wanted to put Bryan in the 6-man tag, but I didn't put him in the opener. Like I said, WWE 2003. There was really only one answer for me here when I saw his name. Kurt Angle with Danielson in a technical 3-way dance. Sounds like fucking the most amazing thing ever. NXT in 2015. So I wanted to throw in an element of something slightly different into the 3-way dance. I was thinking maybe a bigger guy like Cesaro/Claudio, or maybe a more high-octane guy like Jushin Thunder Liger. So what I did was, instead of making my decision myself, I asked Siri on my phone to do it for me, which seems pretty fair. I just grabbed my phone and I asked Siri to flip a coin, and she flipped a coin, and Liger was heads, Cesaro was tails, and it landed on heads. There's me holding up my phone. All right, it lands on heads. I go with Jushin Thunder Liger. Hindsight being what it is, that might have been the right pick if we're being honest with ourselves. So now we got to build out the rest of the 6-man tag match. We got to build out the rest of the Mickie James match. This is me just running down the card I have so far, and we'll do that here too. Taz versus Eddie Guerrero, Bryan Danielson and Kurt, or Bryan Danielson versus Kurt versus Jushin Thunder Liger, main evented by Bret Hart versus Kenny Omega in a 2 out of 3 falls match. What super indie is getting this kind of money? What Culture Pro? That's the answer. AEW in 2025, I immediately was like, oh, you could have had Okada in there with Danielson and Angle, or Takeshita, or Shibata. 2025 Shibata, maybe not so much. But nevertheless, I think what I do here is the right move. I move over to tag teams. AEW known for their tag team wrestling, especially their trios wrestling these days. So my options were Jet Speed, Brodito, Christian and Cope. But I went with FTR. Literally one of the better years for them is 2025. But I get AEW again, and I get 2019, and I was really upset because I was hoping I'd get another good year for AEW for the men, but I kind of forgot that they have some really good Joshi stars in 2019. Emi Sakura, Hikaru Shida, Yuka Sakazaki, just to name the 3 that are at the top. But I, of course, had to go with the highest rated of them, which is Emi Sakura. Really love her. Really think that she's awesome. I wish they brought her back. I don't even know if she's with the company at this point. But last person to spin was, of course, FTR's partner. and I was shitting bricks at this point because this is make or break. Because if you get WWE in like 2008, you're fucked. Who are you supposed to take at that point? You know. Instead, I got NXT in 2019, and I feel like I went with a really good choice. I could have went with Walter, aka Gunther, right? And that would have been fun. That would have been really fun to go with Walter, teaming up with FTR. But I thought about the meshing of styles, no pun intended, with Fraxium and AJ and FTR. And I thought about what other fast-paced, high-octane guy could FTR have to counterbalance all of that. And I went with Ilya Dragunov. I feel like that makes the most sense. I feel like that's the best pick. So yeah, the last thing we have to do is press that book the show button, and we basically see what we book. And there you guys have it. I booked an S+ Meltzer approved 6.25 star card. So you look at me, just thinking I said everything into the microphone and it got picked up. Look how excited I was, guys. I was actually really happy with this card. Literally like perfects across the board. 6.75 for the 3-way dance. 6.25 for the second match. I'm trying to read them as they scroll down. 6.25 for the 6-man tag. 5.25 for the women's match, and then 6.25 for the main event. So all in all hits, no misses, all gas, no breaks. And then you see me reading what Brian Alvarez had a show note for me. And if you can't read that, it says, "You saved your weakest link for the last and called it a main event. Brian, you have no room to talk. You know shit all about wrestling. So shut the fuck up." So while I get ready to transition back to me, thank you guys for listening to me blabber on about my thought process behind this. Sorry for the technical difficulties. It will not happen again, hopefully. And yeah, back to Ryan. Well, that is it for this fun little experimental video where I booked a fucking flawless card, if I'm being honest. Little pat on the back right there, if you ask me. And you all were witness to it. So no one can sit here and say that I don't know anything about wrestling, because I think I do. That proves I know like a little something. A little something. Not a lot, but a little. So if you've enjoyed this and want to see more of this, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell to stay up to date on all things Nacho Wrestling, and I will see you guys next time.